Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. First this evening, lawyers for a man who pleaded guilty to the murder of a Gagebrook father have argued he may not have intended to take his victim's life. Shannon James Duffy has pleaded guilty to killing Jared Lee Turner, but his defence wants his upbringing and mild intellectual disability taken into account.
Another difficult day spent waiting for justice. Jared Turner's family again faced his killer in court. Shannon Duffy has pleaded guilty to murdering the 22-year-old in April last year, a crime described as callous. Today his defence lawyers described Duffy as illiterate, suffering fetal alcohol issues as a child, and facing a difficult upbringing, which ended his chances at a normal life. The court heard the two men had lived together and had only known each other for a matter of weeks. When Duffy heard of claims Mr. Turner had allegedly made sexual advances towards a teenager, he sought retribution, shooting him in the back of the head near Richmond. Lawyer Frances McCracken said her client might not have intended to kill, suggesting he in fact aimed for the back of Mr. Turner rather than his head. She said Duffy was remorseful and understood his actions had impacted Mr. Turner's friends, family and children. But Justice Michael Brett said no remorse had been shown at the time, highlighting Duffy had left Mr. Turner by the side of the road and went into hiding. Today, prosecutors also argued that Duffy presents a risk to the wider community. He'll return to court again on November 13, where he's likely to learn his fate. Sean McComish, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian Indigenous leaders are outraged after the Clarence City Council made the contentious decision to reject a proposal to permanently fly the Aboriginal flag outside its offices. The move labelled as outdated, but the Mayor is defending the decision.
A poll
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Resulting in this flag pole remaining empty.
Every council in Tasmania, as far as I know, flies the Aboriginal flag permanently.
Except one, Clarence Council sensationally rejecting a motion this week to keep the flag raised beyond NAIDOC week.
The motion's lost. Thank you.
No such pleasantries from Aboriginal leaders in response.
I was absolutely shocked. They're happy to fly the white flag, but not happy to fly the black flag.
The move not disrespectful, according to Clarence Mayor Doug Chipman, one of 6 councillors voting against the proposal.
I believe that when we fly the flag permanently, we ought to be celebrating it properly. We ought to be marking a suitable occasion.
So what is a suitable occasion? Those in favour believe NAIDOC week, but the council wants to wait to sign a reconciliation action plan.
Clarence Council didn't even mention this to us before they had the debate. There's been no consultation.
And why didn't councillors discuss the issue with the Aboriginal community?
Very good question.
Like other local governments across the state, the Clarence Mayor expects his council will permanently fly the flag into the future. It could be as soon as Christmas.
And I look forward to seeing that happen as we work through the Reconciliation Action Plan process.
Garth Burley, 7 Tasmania News.
In a rare sight, an international flight from Europe has touched down in Tasmania. On board, 118 French and Italian expeditioners on their way to Antarctica. But first, they'll have to undergo extensive quarantining.
Touching down on a perfect Hobart morning. This chartered flight arriving from Paris via Rome and Sri Lanka. One by one, 118 international arrivals stepped off this plane and onto an awaiting bus. The sightseeing was short-lived. Their next stop, hotel quarantine, and then Antarctica.
Each year we've only got a very small window to resupply our stations in Antarctica during the summer period. You get one chance of getting all the food, the people and the equipment down.
The group of Italian and French expeditioners will spend the next 14 days quarantined in Hobart's Travel Lodge and Ridges Hotel. Security is tight. Police and Defence Force personnel escorting the group. The strict measures in place to keep Tasmanians safe and keep Antarctica COVID-free.
All the countries who operate in Antarctica have joined together and developed guidelines and protocols. And an important part of that is rigorous testing and quarantine periods.
They will not have the capability to deal with an outbreak on their stations. And Tasmania, compared to a number of the other Antarctic gateways, is in a very fortunate position to have a safe changeover for them.
The expedition deemed essential, with the contingent set to spend the next 12 months on the icy continent. It also has its benefits for locals here.
Tasmanian businesses have supplied equipment, food, fuel, provisions to them for over or nearly 40 years.
Once their quarantine is complete, many of the expeditioners will set off on the Antarctic ship L'Astrolabe. The Health Minister says months of planning have gone into ensuring all precautions are taken.
They already were in quarantine prior to their departure from their home country. They've already had a COVID test and proved negative before they departed, and they're going into quarantine here.
2 weeks of isolation, with many more ahead. Meg Sides, 7 Tasmania News.
The use of telehealth services in Tasmania has skyrocketed during the pandemic. GPs say improvements have been fast-tracked and the service is here to stay.
The new normal hitting all of us. Even a simple trip to the doctors isn't what it used to be. Telehealth consultations are up 1,200% in Tasmania since the pandemic began.
It's a really great method of providing the care to our population, which is very spread out in Tasmania.
Tasmania's decentralised population making it the perfect place for the service to be widely integrated.
It's often the convenience of being able to have the appointment from the comfort of your own home. There's the advantage of not having to travel to a major hospital or centre, which involves time and money for travelling.
A more convenient way of checking in with a doctor. The benefits beyond the pandemic are clear.
I think patients with chronic disease, where they've got to know their treating clinicians over time, can really be a group that will benefit significantly.
I'm hoping post-COVID the level of telehealth remains high in Tasmania. We know that we have a lot of chronic and complex conditions here in Tasmania. We know that this impacts on our ability to deliver health service.
Doctors say it's great and the level of service to patients can be maintained.
And it took me a bit of time to get used to it. But I think once you do identify the patients where it's appropriate to give that type of care, I'm absolutely sure that it's the same level and quality of care that they would receive even if they came in.
They say an apple a day keeps the doctor away, and that certainly rings true in this new age of phone consultation. Quality medical care, now more easily accessible. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, Labor has once again called for Tasmania's embattled Human Services Minister to resign or be sacked. Roger Jensch was the centre of political debate throughout this entire parliamentary week, criticised over his handling of a controversial youth program in the Northern Territory. At a community event today, he said he's open to scrutiny and accountable to the Tasmanian people.
I'm very pleased to have the confidence of our House of Assembly after the debates over this last week. I'm very keen to get back into throwing myself into my work, in my portfolios and in my electorate.
We don't have any confidence in him, and either he should resign or the Premier should sack him.
A review into the program for troubled youth is currently underway. The state government says it's still committed to a standalone AFL club. Despite speculation, North Melbourne is on track to increase its presence in Tasmania. The Kangaroos are rumoured to be considering playing as many as 7 games in the state. Collingwood President Eddie Maguire says it would be a smart business move.
I look at it, what's going on in Tasmania, and look what's coming up as far as the economics of the AFL, and there's a juicy deal there to be done.
Sports Minister Jane Howlett says she'd like to see more games played in Tasmania, but a Tasmanian branded team is the ultimate prize. Farm owners are being urged to consider the benefits of planting trees on their land. The Tree Alliance campaign aims to increase Tasmania's timber reserves while also educating about the positives of planting for soil and livestock health.
So this is a win-win for the economy, the environment, for landowners, and we really want to promote the opportunity, and the Tree Alliance is all about making resources available.
We'll pick up our lambing percentages. We're very sure of that because we do have shelter belts already in place, and we know that we do get a high lambing percentage in those paddocks.
Private Forest Tasmania says it expects demand for the state's timber to quadruple by 2050, and plantations on private land could be key to satisfying it. Well, the Hobart show may have been cancelled, but a slightly smaller replacement is on the way. Tommy Choo will be doing laps of Salamanca Market next weekend as it transforms into a show-style event. Alongside the usual stall holders, the day will feature animals, rides and of course Dagwood dogs. Another highlight, a recently restored train rolling out on its whistle-stop tour.
Yeah, so we'll bring it... We've got Tommy Choo right here, of course. We've got the teacup rides. We've also got the laughing clowns, which are suitable for all ages.
And we know the horn works. Safety precautions will be in place to ensure COVID restrictions are followed.
Glenorchy's Sarah Skinner has been named the competition's best and fairest as her side prepares to face minor premier Launceston in the decider, while Lauderdale's Sam Siggins was anointed the best of the men. After recording best on ground votes in the final 2 games of the season, Sam Siggins now has the Alastair Lynch medal to his name. The Lauderdale Utilities season may be over, but he says the premiership window hasn't closed.
I certainly feel like we can still be in that window, but I guess there's a lot of water to go under the bridge before the next season starts.
Sarah Skinner, meanwhile, had another standout season, winning the TSLW's best and fairest. Her main focus, though, is on tomorrow's grand final against Launceston.
It's been so close, all the games that we've played with them, so if we want it more, then we'll get it.
The Pies will need to curtail Mia King and Daria Bannister to be in with a shot.
I think where our strength lies, we've got a really even skill set across the whole team.
And the nerves are definitely outweighed by the excitement and the thrill of getting into a grand final.
Launceston made it off the back of this stinging barb.
They got their spray tans, so they looked good with their medals.
With a 43-point drubbing of North Launceston to make their way to the decider.
It just makes the girls want to come out and prove that we are one of the top teams in the competition and that we deserve to be playing in a second consecutive grand final.
The Blues will have AFLW draftee Brooke Brown at centre half forward and say they're surprised to have made it this far.
We were scraping the barrel for players. We didn't really have enough to even make a team, and now we've got one of the best squads in the TSL to pick from.
The first bounce is 12:15 tomorrow at UTAS. Meanwhile, Cygnet could break a 16-year premiership drought in tomorrow's Southern Football League grand final. The Port will have former Lauderdale ball magnate Thorpe Boscott, who managed to survive a rough conduct charge lodged by Huonville. It's added some extra spice to an already fierce regional rivalry.
We're the last 2 clubs down there, so it used to be a good old-fashioned Huon footy league with Commandy and Channel and Kingston at one point, and we're the last 2 survivors.
It's something that the club has been building towards for a fair while now. 2008 was the last time seniors had a crack at it, and through that, since that period, it's been pretty lean for the club, so they've been building.
Huonville has lost the past 2 SFL grand finals. The Hobart Hurricanes have added another fresh face to its growing BBL squad in the form of homegrown all-rounder Mitchell Owen. The 19-year-old says he's modelling his game off aggressive top-order batsmen Matthew Wade and Darcy Short and is hoping to crack the first 11 this season.
It's going to be one that's tough to break into, but our aspirations are obviously to play.
It comes as Hydro Tasmania opens the floodgates, announcing its partnership as the club's major sponsor. And with this weekend's Burnie 10 going virtual for the first time, tonight's flashback is to when it all began back in 1985. The first running of the famous foot race would also see a young Steve Monaghetti capture the nation's attention. Banners flying high and a marching band's cry. The stage was set for the inaugural Burnie 10. We didn't clean the windshield, but Southern Cross Television invited viewers to see the course before the starting gun fired on 35 years of history.
What a sight this beholds all of us here in this inaugural Advocate Air New Zealand Burnie 10.
Just over 800 runners took part that day. Harold Dowling kept us up to date.
As they run past the Stopod turn up.
A 22-year-old from Ballarat named Steve Monaghetti took the early lead, with Victorian Adam Hoyle providing plenty of competition.
As our leading runners now run past the Emu Motel. They run past the Emu Motel And out in front, it's Adam Hoyle has gone to the front. He's taken over from Monongetti.
That was until the 7 kilometre mark. Monongetti opened up a winning break.
Up towards the straight along past the old APPM board mills, Monongetti is increasing his lead. With power, he's powering up this hill here, and look at him go, he's opened up 20 metres. Adam Hoyle's gone for all money.
Charging into the home straight, no one else was in sight as Monongetti set a new Tasmanian record over the 10 kilometre distance and claimed his first of an incredible 4 Burnie 10 crowns.
Good evening. My family is hoping this is not the last time I wear the Tigers tie this season. Let's switch to the weather though, and Hobart's temperature today 5 degrees below average as the mercury scrambled to 12 degrees. Launceston a sunny 16, Burnie 13 and Devonport 14. 16 was the high, also recorded at Friendly Beaches. Strawn and the Islands 15, Bushy Park, Smithton, Low Head and St Helens 14, Grove 13. Mount Wellington had the low of -5. A cooler southerly stream responsible for the drop in temperatures today, particularly over the south, and plenty cloud moving in. A cloud band extends from central WA to Victoria with the cooler southerly flow over our region. Convective cloud is over the top end. Tomorrow a low sits over Victoria with an associated cold front over New South Wales and South Australia. A high over the Bight follows with another high well to the west. Winds tending south-southeasterly tomorrow afternoon, reaching 30 knots over the northeast. Later, lighter, more variable winds inland. Strong wind warning has been issued from Sandy Cape to Stanley and from Cape Portland to St Helens Point. Saturday for Hobart, 14, a possible shower or two with rain developing later. 13 for Medina, rain developing for Oatlands with just 10 the high. Launceston 13 degrees with wet weather. Devonport 14, -1 to 6 the temperature range for Lyowini. Burnie, rain and 14, light rain developing for Strawn, 15 the high, and Marrawar 14 degrees. St Helens looking at a top of 14 as well with rain in the area, developing for Swansea 2, and Orford, rain on the way, 13 degrees. Sunday, a possible early shower over the east, fine elsewhere until a shower develops over the west later. A fine partly cloudy day on Monday, maybe a light shower over the west and south, and on Tuesday, partly cloudy across the state with light winds. Sunny in Perth and 27 tomorrow, partly cloudy in Adelaide, showers easing from Melbourne but developing in Sydney, partly cloudy and 29 in Brisbane. Still some cloud around, Hobart 12 at the moment, Launceston 13 and Devonport 12 degrees. Kim, our son Jack is at Adelaide Oval tonight for the big game, and he says it's been raining all day in Adelaide and it's going to be very slippery on the track tonight, but it might be very hard for the big men to take their marks, but it might favour Richmond for their superior ball handling skills.
I'm not going there, Murph. I'm not going there. That's your news for now. Tom will be in the chair over the weekend. Have a great one. Good night.